And thus, we find out more about why Fairy Tail got its name Fairy Tail, and also what type of meaning Zera has to the creation of Fairy Tail. This was, I think personally, one of the best endings of an arc I've seen in Fairy Tail, actually. One of the better ones, definitely in the tops, like the top 3, top 5 of Fairy Tail arcs, especially when it comes to the ending-wise, because seeing this conclusion, it adds a lot of, more explanation to how Fairy Tail was formed. And, I mean, that's kind of what we all expected. I mean, Fairy Tail Zero is kind of like the founding of Fairy Tail. And with this episode, it concludes that. Fairy Tail Zero has finally come to an end. And next week, we're finally going to get back into the present day, which I do want to say, if you did not know, we're going to be having a time skip, because you can clearly see at the end of the episode with the preview, and also Lucy and stuff, there's a time skip, Fairy Tail is disbanded, and we'll probably get a lot more explanation in next week's episode. But for now, though, talking about this episode at hand, Fairy Tail Zero is over. And this was quite an enjoyable experience. I really enjoyed actually watching Fairy Tail Zero. It adds a lot more explanation to Mavis, and then also all the other characters that were in this arc. And I mean, seeing how Fairy Tail was formed thanks to kind of Zeref to begin with. I mean, he taught him magic. It's kind of strange. But then on top of that, just seeing how Zera disappeared and what type of meaning she has for the creation of Fairy Tail, it allows me actually to respect this Fairy Tail Zero, this prequel, so much more. Because Zera, in a way, she's symbolized to be the fairy. Now, I don't know how many actually understood that. I don't know if Hiroshima was trying to kind of make that the meaning of the arc, but that's what I took from it, because Zera was invisible. She was never there to begin with, and she was an unconscious illusion that Mavis was using, and of course she wasn't aware of it, but nobody else could see it, and so they just played along with what Mavis was doing. And in a way, you could kind of look at Zera as if she was a fairy, because nobody could catch her, nobody knew she existed, nobody knew she was really there. And then when you see that final scene to where, like, Zera is kind of like, being symbolized as a fairy later on in the episode, like how she disappears and stuff, and when they mention Fairy Tail and all that, if they're really there or not, I see a correlation between the two things. So, in a way, Zera is the reason why Fairy Tail got its name, because she's pretty much like a fairy. Was she there? Does she have a tail? So forth, so on. So, a very good way to conclude the arc. And I have to say, Hiroshima, if you truly meant that, regardless if you didn't mean that or not, that's how I interpreted it. It was a really good way to interpret that ending. So, I like how Fairy Tail got its name. It adds a lot more meaning to the title of the series, and I wish a lot more anime actually did that. A lot more anime or manga actually took the time to explain more of their title. I mean, yes, sometimes they don't, and it's fine, or sometimes it's kind of just the obvious title, but I just like how Fairy Tail's name was kind of explained a whole lot more. I mean, it didn't need to be done. It wasn't something that had to be done. But I like getting to see how Fairy Tail was founded and also how it got its name and the meaning behind it. Now, what I find very, very funny is how, like, Mavis is like, I don't want to cause any problems for the town. And, like, that's what she was wanting to do with the guild, Fairy Tail. And then all of a sudden, in my mind, when I was reading this, the subtitles, I'm like, oh god, Guild Arts. You remember the town fucking splitting for Guild Arts? I'm like, yep, there's gonna be a lot of problems for this town in the future. They just don't know what the fuck is coming. They had no fucking idea. Because I remember Guild Arts, he'll walk through fucking walls, not even paying attention. He'll be like, whoa, I'm through your fucking wall. I'm in your bedroom, ain't I? That's pretty much how Guild Arts is. So, I got a good chuckle out of that. There was a couple good comedy moments throughout the episode. Now, one thing I do want to say, however, is I do like the brief history that we got at the end. Like, the final part of Fairy Tail Zero, before we get, like, the explanation of what's coming, like, in next week's episode. We get to see a brief history of who is the next master, who died, who carried on, all sorts of different things like that. And I love that. I love that brief history. And if there's one thing I love a lot about series, is usually when they do some good world building. And that right there was some really good world building. I have to say, good job, Fairy Tail, on that. So yeah, episode, it was very enjoyable. Like I said, it was probably one of the better endings I've seen for Fairy Tail's arcs, and I would definitely watch it again. Yeah, I definitely would. Even though the Zera, reveal was rather obvious, like I said, it was still fun to see. I love this episode for that, and I mean, yeah. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. How do you all feel? I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.